Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 12th, 2020 budget hearing. It is 1:02 p.m. And we can, well, this is the first of many hearings we'll have on budget topics, and this afternoon's hearing topic is the commissioner's area and capital spending, and I think that's the group, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, and a lot of just kind of a overview of the general fund.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll let you start, and be sure to introduce yourselves, and we'll begin the budget.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, commissioners. Mike Fromer, County Administrator.
Karen First, Fiscal Manager.
Karen and I have been working quite a bit. Karen more than me, and Marissa has been recently pulled into the budget team in pulling together the materials. What we wanted to do today was similar to what we've done the last couple of years, and provide kind of an overview of some general trends we're seeing. We provided a budget memo to the departments and elected officials with some goals, and just kind of have some dialogue with you, like big picture where the preliminary budget is at. We have a budget binder for you today that has all of the summary from Open.gov for all the departments with notes on them, and we'll kind of get into those in a little bit as we go through our presentation. Karen, do you have anything else? Okay. So the, I don't know, Dawn, can we dim the light over here? Can you guys see?
That would help, yeah.
We've got some intensive laden graphs here. It's always dangerous after lunch or afternoon to turn the lights off, but.
Yeah.
So, as we started out for, our goal for the 2021 budget, recognizing that, our revenues have been down in 2020 because of COVID and some of the business restrictions that have been placed by the Ohio Department of Health, we went into this year with a little bit more, I think, of a defined goal of the budget than in the past, where we've had it more open to growth and expanding services in different offices. We wanted to pretty much have a flat budget. The goal was to have a flat budget where we would look at an overall increase of 0 to 1%, recognizing that our revenues in 2021 would be reduced, and by having a flat budget over the next couple of years, our revenues could recover so we could get back on track to the progress that we've seen in a lot of budgets. The goals were to reduce the non-personnel expenses, including services and charges and materials and supplies. Many organizations right now, when you look at year-to-date spending, is really behind where they would be from a budget standpoint because of COVID-19. A lot of new services and other things were impacted, which resulted in non-personnel expenses being lower at this point. Also, no increase in staffing unless deemed critical to your operations. That was another goal. Also, near flat salary increase. It was planned this year for a 2% increase for non-bargaining members, but there was also over 3% 27th pay that was in the 2020 budget. So having a flat salary increase was something that could be attainable with that. And then capital expenses in 417. Just as a quick review, we have the 401, which is 1/10 of a mil of our property tax, which goes to our building maintenance, smaller projects. The 417 is ambulances, police cruisers, large software programs, things of that nature. And those items should be reserved for the need for immediate attention. They shouldn't be what we've been doing in the past. So that was kind of the guidance that was placed out to the departments. Okay, so now we're going to get into all of our charts. Okay, this is for the general fund. the expenditures, okay? You can see that I'll kind of go through some background here, and if there's any questions you guys have, please go ahead and fire them as we're discussing. Basically, the chart looks at from 2017 budget, 2017 actual, 2018 budget, 2018 actual, and goes all the way through what our 2021 preliminary budget as it's submitted. You can see, and it's probably no surprise that our budget is usually more than our actual because of not spending, capital projects, being a little conservative. I would point out that from a very high level, the 2020 budget our 2021 budget is about 7% less than what was submitted last year. Okay, now there's a lot of nuances with that we want to try to go through. So to look at it straight lined, it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison. For example, the 2020 budget has a $3 million increase for the revolving loan fund, which was not originally planned at the beginning of the year. It also has, and that's shown in our services and charges, also the grants and aid, which is up quite a bit over years past, includes the $3 million that we're providing for the community enhancement and small business grants. Correct, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. So when you look at that, that's one of the reasons why our budget in 2020, because as we do the appropriations, it changes our budget for the year. Now, on the CARES funding, that comes in by reducing our expenses, right? It doesn't impact our budget.
Correct. It's reducing the appropriations on the salary side.
So when you look at our spent to date, we didn't even look at where we're at spent to date because it is lower than it should be because of the reimbursement that we got from the CARES funding.
Are we budgeting any reimbursement for 21?
We are not budgeting any.
I didn't think we would.
No. So when you look at the, so to say that we're at 6.9% decrease, that's a little misleading given what we've provided with those two programs. If you look at and you take out the revolving loan, small business grant, and community enhancement, it's actually a 2.2% reduction, okay? In the budget. When you go down and look and compare the 2020 budget versus the 2021, you're going to see that, from a high level, the expenses were $125 million, and the current preliminary budget is $117 million. You can see that roughly if you take that $6 million down, it's $119 million, just for rough numbers. The salary number is up higher. We talked as a goal that we wanted to be flat. This year we were at $40 million, about $500,000. And we're at $41,800,000, which is a $1.3 million increase.
That public defender?
That is, yes. So that is attributed to the sheriff, the public defender, EMS, veteran services, and treasurer. Okay. In your budget binder, you will see. Let's go through this and then we'll kind of walk through, because there's a sheet right after the two graphs that shows the salary increases from those specific departments. And the change is 1.9 million. So it would be, the first 3 pages are the memo. And then you have the two graphs that we're reviewing right now, and then it's this third sheet here. Okay, that when you look through there, you can see the treasurer is, it's basically, they're wanting to use some of the DTAC funds not to pay for salaries, but to go to the land bank and have the general fund pay more of their salary costs. They're also adding a senior member to their, or proposing to add a senior member. EMS contract negotiations are with the bargaining unit. The sheriff has 15 non-vacant or vacant positions from last year that they plan on filling. So that is the reason why, when you look at that, you're seeing that increase.
What is the public defender salary dollar figure?
What we had budgeted, what Karen and I had budgeted, are you talking about total increase for the
No, just-
salaries?
I assume the salary is very small this year because it's just got a couple staff, but next year with the,
Like you said, 368,000.
How much?
Pardon?
368,000, it looks like, yeah, so.
How much? I'm sorry.
368,000.
368.
That assumes it'll be fully staffed by, what, second quarter?
It would be.
Yeah, thank you.
It was assuming the public defender would be on starting January 1. The public defender's salary was just very preliminary budgeted, $100,000.
But I'm talking about the rest of the staff, the attorneys.
We were budgeting that they would be on board at about April 1st.
Yes, April.
Second quarter.
Now,
How is
that'll be reimbursed, those salaries will be able to be reimbursed from the state, and our services and charges, which right now we're sending all the caseload out, that'll start to go down by that salary number going up.
that's, I was gonna, a couple questions. How does the reimbursement get budgeted? Is it,
We based it kind of similar to what we have now, just because there's a lot of
no,
unknowns.
I don't mean dollars. I mean, where is it budgeted?
It's in their budget, yeah, because
But
it's.
where?
There's all the service and charges, it's in the revenues.
So
It's comes in as a revenue, so.
So it's a reduction of the service and charges expense? Okay, it's not a reduction of salary, it's not income.
Right, correct. Mhm.
There should be some of a wash there because you'll be contracting out services. So I guess at some point, I'd like to know what the net increase is projected to be.
That's where I was headed too, is we ought to have a reconciliation. Okay,
Yeah.
here's 2020, and then here's 21 with all the different line items.
Our very preliminary, when we were working through setting up the commission, was that the increase in costs would be about 100 to 150,000, but we can revisit that now that we're, doing budgeting, and yeah, definitely. The benefits cost is an increase of 850,000. You're going to find that some groups that are pretty much 90% salary and benefits are having a hard time creating a flat budget because they don't have the non-personnel expenses that they can reduce. Because the benefit costs are going up 7%. We've seen a few of those, and you'll see them noted. But just another kind of nuance to see there. Materials and supplies are, actually a little bit above what we had budgeted last year. Services and charges are below significantly, but we had the $3 million that we talked about from the revolving loan fund. Capital is down quite a bit. This capital outlay and equipment is really the county engineer. A lot of this is county engineer's projects, a majority. And you'll see in their budget that when you look at their individual budget, that their capital is down quite a bit. I don't know that it's down quite a bit. I just think this year was a year where they did a lot of projects, so it's probably better said that way. Grants and aid, obviously we had the $3 million of the community enhancement and small business grants, and we don't have those, programmed in for this year. So we're going back to a little bit more of our where we've been in the past. Transfers, we actually have more transfers this year. A lot of that is because of the planned work at Bixby. If you look at that, there's about $7 million contribution in the 420 fund for the consultant costs and a cash contribution that we talked about as part of the long-range financial plan. So once again, this is all broken out. This is very high level to give you guys a, kind of a, to go straight line comparison is not overly, accurate, but if you want us to look at, I was thinking about maybe doing more of an operating, expense evaluation and take out some of the capital stuff and the, you know, the revolving loan fund and things like that. So if there's something you want to see specific on that, we can, to get it a little bit more apples to apples.
What's the plan for bonding the Bixby? How much are we're going to finance internally versus bond?
Yeah, we were, you know, the current was to pay 10 million in capital, 5 million this year, and then 5 million in the following year, and then bond the remainder. You know, I think right now would be a really good time to start looking at bidding it, because some of the building projects that are being done in the community and the state are receiving really good bids. So it would be, I think that we've estimated that the bond would be, I think, 18 million. So it'd be at 28 million for cash and the other. But once again, it's going to depend on what the bidding climate is, which I think is pretty good right now. We're going to also plan a budget hearing for John Melvin on the facility side to go through the specifics of those. So now we go on to the revenue side. And, you know, when you look at it, the first chart, we showed where the budget would always come in. Our budget expenses would always be higher than our actual. Now you're going to see the inverse of this chart. You're going to see where we budget. We traditionally outperform what our budget is. Our budget usually is fairly conservative, which is fine. But once again, you can kind of see how that happens. When you look at, you know, what we're planning for 2021, we're looking at 104 million, 600,000 or 800,000. Just starting to wear readers, so can't see that far. So you can see that we're 104. Last year this year we had budgeted 106, which is a 1.6% reduction. When you look at, when you want to kind of, you know, get a feel, it just happens that the 104 is pretty much about midpoint between our 2018 and 19 actual. So it kind of, you know, when we talk about flat budgeting, the thought is if our revenues are going to go back to 2019, we need to reduce our expenses to allow our revenue stream to get back to, you know, what it was in 2020 and continue to progress. The big differences for 2021 is about 0.5% reduction from our sales tax for this year. You know, when you see taxes on this, it's property taxes and sales tax are rolled up in the same item. And then our interest income, which is part of the miscellaneous. If you look at miscellaneous, you know, we budgeted 6.3 for 2020. You know, we're right about 5 million. It's at 5 point. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong row here. Yeah, we're over 4 million this year, and we're at 2.6 million for 2.8 million for 2021. Big part of that is the interest income that we're anticipating in our portfolio.
Do you have a number for a forecast number for 2020 revenue? Because obviously we're not going to end the year at 87 million.
No, we don't have a forecast. We
Have a
can.
better idea once the property tax second half posts, so that hasn't posted yet, so.
That was one of the things that if you look at our revenue number, it's down, right? When you look at our actual revenue, it's down because of the property tax. Now, is that going to post, Karen?
I'm told it should be done by the end of the week, so hopefully by tomorrow we'll know our figure, so.
Yeah, so we'll get a revenue forecast.
Because the 2020 year-to-date actual, when we get the updated numbers and do a forecast for November, December, give us a much better feel for what 21 is going to look like. Because the budget for 2020 was probably pretty conservative going in, but when COVID hit, it became all of a sudden very aggressive. So we'll have a much better feel.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get that information once the taxes,
Is those year-to-date numbers through October?
they're through the end of October.
Yes.
Through the end of October. Karen, do you know where our property tax usually is, the percentage? Not to put you on the spot.
Not the percentage, but I know they're estimating about another 6.3 million, so.
Property tax?
So, just, as we looked at the overall, these are just some of the trends and things that we identified in reviewing. Karen and I have had a lot of fun reviewing every one of the budgets submitted. And you can see fairly quickly, some of the trends that we're seeing. Once again, we talked about the health insurance cost. That is something, when we indicated flat budgeting, that was something that I'm not sure I know personally I didn't really think about the impact that would have. The population increase, most offices are planning, with the census coming in 2020, that the elected officials will be getting an increase. Like the coroners, when you look at the coroner's budget, it looks like it's one of the higher percentage budget increases, but a lot of it has to do with his increase in salary per the Ohio Revised Code. So, operating costs, I think many departments are still being very cautious in their budget reductions as they're anticipating returning to normal operations in 2021. Karen and I had several conversations, probably with at least a 25%, hey, it seems like you didn't spend that much this year in services and charges and materials and supplies. And they're like, well, we couldn't do programs for COVID, and they're anticipating getting back to some of that programming next year. So I think they were a little conservative in general that we saw. Forecasting data for non-personnel was really difficult. I know Karen and I would prefer to be doing more budgeting based on forecasting data, but the numbers in 2020 with COVID are just much harder to get a feel for on that. The 420 capital fund, is the historic courthouse in Bixby. We have monies to finish up the courthouse, and then also proceeding with, Bixby in the 420. The 417, which is more of the sheriff's cruisers, the ambulances, programs, software programs. We did see a reduction, and we're only transferring $1 million to that, where in the past we've been, much higher than that. Some specific departments that you're going to see when you look at the overall. Veteran Services has some restructuring. Treasurer's Office has some significant change in their operations. Code compliance and Regional Sewer District have had banner years with tap fees and permit fees. They're busier right now than they've ever been. We are, I think, cautiously looking at that continued growth into 2021. They're going to be doing a budget hearing, so you'll see that, so that as we, look at those, because the goal is always that the fees we bring in from the building safety code compliance pays for their expenses. On the data center increases, you're going to see some significant increases in data because of the network security costs of the programs we use to run with that, and then as well as some of the online platforms that with Zoom and different things like that, maintaining those moving forward. So you'll see that. And we've requested that they do a budget hearing to kind of go through those, with you all. So let's take a second here and kind of just walking through the binder a little bit. The first 3 pages is a memo that we put together that you can take a look at it. Pretty much goes over some of the trends and different things that we've identified. You're going to see the next two sheets are the graphs, the budget, or the revenue and expense graphs. Then you start to look at, we have the general fund salary increase that we talked about, which is a spreadsheet that kind of shows you why that's a little bit more. Karen put together this next one is the general fund transfers. Each year we transfer money to support, like our bond payments that we make, the data center operations, economic development, a lot of our special revenue funds,
Yes,
correct, Karen?
correct.
Then we have some small ones where we have victims of crime grants, crime victims grant, some of those that are, in the grand scheme of things, very important programs, but small dollar amounts.
So they're matching grant funds that they're anticipating for 2021, so.
The 417 capital project, you can see, in 2018, we transferred 3.7 million. In 2019, we transferred 2 million, and then this year we're at 1 million, so you can see that trend of going down. The capital improvements, we use the casino revenue as the primary source, and then we supplement that with general fund dollars, and you can see that those are up next year because of the Bixby and what we talked about. You also have our property and casualty insurance, the JFS match that we provide, and then also some projects with the road and bridge projects, and that's, Karen, that's a specific project, isn't it? Isn't that the Sawmill Parkway?
Yes, that's to cover the bond payment.
So you can see when we showed that overall sheet where in the past we were at 14, last year we were at 14.9 million on transfers, and this year we're at 18 million. You can kind of see the differences there. The next sheet is new staff members, new staffing. I guess we don't have a, or do we? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's stop there. Okay, good. Good. This is good. With all these dedications we've done the last 2 days, getting into budget is
Gee, yeah.
transfer. You can see, once again, the capital spending requests. The 401 is 1 mil, or 0.1 mil of property tax, which is dedicated. So we currently in that account have 1.2 million, but we're required to transfer an amount each year into that. That's not something we could not go ahead and transfer like the other two funds. So we will be transferring 810,000 in that. As you know, with COVID, we put on hold any projects that were not essential. The two major projects that we had planned for this year and didn't do are the roof on this building, and then also the Willis building parking lot and lighting. And then we also, with the historic courthouse being finished, we wanted to do some wayfinding, with all of our new buildings and stuff along here. So that's in the 401. Once again, John's going to come and give an overview, through the specific projects, John Melvin. The 417, which we have a cash balance of 2.1 in it right now, and that's, once again, once COVID hit, we really slowed stuff down. That's why we have a significant cash balance in there. We're proposing to transfer $1 million into it, and it would fund the fiber extensions that we talked about earlier today, 2 ambulances, 8 vehicles for the sheriff, and the DD property, or the property next to the DD building. The ambulances and the sheriff's cruisers, are down from last year's request. I think it was three ambulances last year, and how many cruisers?
15 for the sheriff's office.
Yeah. They went into this year knowing to be a little bit more conservative on those requests. And then the 420, which is the large project. New positions, once again, we're, that was a goal, to really minimize, and these are currently ones that are being considered, and like I said, they're, most of these, I think, all except the 911 has a budget hearing currently planned, but once again, we just have a preliminary list of budget hearings and want to know what, what you guys would like to see, if you want to add some. The Public Defender Commission would be a public defender and 4 assistant public defenders. Regional Sewer District has an operator and a lab manager. They'll be doing a presentation to go over that. The Treasurer's Office has 1 senior staff member. Building Safety has a building inspector, residential plans examiner, and a deputy building officer. They're going to be doing a presentation about that as well. They actually have a couple of retirements coming up this year in some of these positions. I'm a little concerned that the building may slow down in 2021, and obviously those positions of inspectors and plans examiners are based on the volume of work that they're doing. 911 has had a deputy director position that they haven't filled for the last 2 years, and it's back. Facilities has 1 general maintenance worker. They're picking up the maintenance at the EMS stations as well as the historic courthouse, and that was their justification. And then the prosecutor's office was looking in their long-range plan, a specialized prosecutor experienced in sexual assault cases. So,
How do you spell assault?
well, it's not done right.
I'm sorry, couldn't resist.
It's the publisher in him.
I hate. It's probably a miracle that you got it this close given my handwriting. Once again, these are all currently, where budgeted, and where we end up is something, kind of separate.
The public safety and the building, public safety and the public defender ought to largely pay for themselves,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the building safety and code compliance, it's very interesting. We've had this dialogue, and it might be good to jump to that, to look at theirs.
There's a lunch I won on that I never got.
Well, and you should win a week
But
of
it wasn't
lunches
for you.
based on this.
He's no longer with us.
Yeah, you should have won a week of lunches. So currently, the budget hearings that we have identified, and we always do our large, we always identify the large ones, and then the ones that are trying to ask for too much money, too much more money.
Now, the ones that aren't going to be coming in here, you'll be reviewing those, you'll be going over them.
We have, and we're going to go through, you can, like I said, we're going to kind of step through these a little bit and show you guys, there's one for each, and we made notes on them so you can kind of, analyze, and take a look at those and see if there's anything specific. But, the county engineer, regional sewer, sheriff's office, those 3 they have a lifetime invitation to come to budget hearings, given. When you spend over $20 million, you have to come. EMS, they have quite a bit of new things and want them. Job and Family Services, as Director Anderson continues to maximize their funding sources and implement new programs. Veteran Services Commission is going to be more of a strategic plan that they're working on. Public Defender Commission, it's probably not, having them come in, I think Karen and I will help them through that process, just forming as a board and then coming in to work on that will be Treasurer's Office, Building Safety, Data Center, Facilities for the Capital Budget Review, and the prosecutor to talk about that. So I don't know if there's any, Jennifer, we still have some slots, right, to?
We have a few spots.
Okay. And as you take a look at them, the plan was these hearings are going to start about the end of November. What we were anticipating is that you guys can, now that you have the information, take a look at it. Maybe Karen and I can meet with you in a week or two and kind of go through and provide you any more documentation and stuff that you need and start to, get that process, moving forward, so. If we go back to the binders, you can see that the next 4 pages are all the capital. And it's the, 401. I know that we've had a lot of discussion recently that as we add new buildings, we need to make sure that we're proactively planning for upgrading those facilities, and I think you'll see we have a pretty good list of that. The next is, I don't know if you guys see this spreadsheet right here with all the red and the green. We did a holiday theme here.
All right.
Actually, what we did here is, the first one is all the general fund, all the general funds. What we've done here is, if their budget is under 5% or more, we highlighted them in green. They're really good. So if you look down through here, Board of Elections and the Clerk of Courts, and those are the ones your guys' own general budget's down over 5%. So you can see in green, those are the ones that are good. The ones that are in red are 3% over what their 2020 budget was. And you can see that, adult court services is one, when you look at it, it's pretty much salaries like we talked about with the insurance, are pretty much just salaries and benefits.
They have a retirement payout that they know for sure is happening at the first of the year, so.
So you can see that is, but then you can see the coroner's another one that I mentioned to you guys that they were at 8%, you can see, and then kind of go through that list. And then the ones that aren't shaded are, right at what their budget was or just a little bit below. And then following that sheet in alphabetical order, you can actually see each of the departments that are shown, okay? And there's a sheet, Karen and I cannot take credit for the graphically pleasing look. Marissa was, we pulled Marissa into Budget World, and she made these really pretty, so.
Yes.
But you can see that there's one for each, and you can kind of take a look at the data, and we created notes based on what Karen and I, on the analysis that we thought that you guys would, be interested in looking at.
They're pretty much in alphabetical order and follow the front page with the red and green, so they should follow that same pattern, so they should.
This is a lot better than One Solutions reports.
Yes, definitely.
So, so then, we didn't tab it, but if you go, if you get back in here, you'll see there's a special revenue
Thanks.
Yeah.
The light.
there.
Thank you.
Like we're done with the slides, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Great. All right.
Helps.
So when you get back in, like I said, we didn't tab it, but there's a special revenue spreadsheet that's a little further back in here. If you go alphabetical, it'll be the treasurer and then veteran services, and then you'll.
It's 34 pages.
31, 2.
When you start to get to have the revenue, Commissioner Benton, you're past it, because you'll start to see, in the special revenue, we started, it's not just the, what is that, salmon color? We start showing the revenue, which is the green, so.
Oh, okay.
Domestic relations, dog and kennel.
Yeah, 911's the first one that's,
Okay, I got it.
So what are we looking for?
keep flipping. You're
911.
close. You're getting really
Got it
close.
here. Keep,
Well, there's 911 wireless.
And
Yep, and then flip one more.
Okay.
Commissioner Benton. Okay, so you'll see this, you'll see before the 911, have another one of these spreadsheets that show the green and the red. And then these charts are going to look a little different because you're going to start to see revenue on these as part of, in addition to expenses.
How does the data center is one of those that's going up more than 2%. How do they account for their revenue? Because I know they're doing a lot of shared services.
Well, Cy did the forecast on the revenue for us. I haven't gone back because I was going to wait till closer to the end of the year to see. But yeah, most of their money is from us doing the transfer at the beginning of the year, majority of it. So I can look at the detail as to how much comes from other entities.
Okay, yeah.
And
Because I want to make sure they're getting their costs covered as we provide those shared services for other jurisdictions, which
And
is.
that's a yearly exercise as you go through. It
Yeah,
shouldn't,
yeah.
it's going to change year to year.
I think when, and that can be something we ask them to touch on in their budget hearing too. The, then you'll see the inter-service revenue funds are also, which are the, let's see here. When you get further back in here. The internal service funds are employee benefits, flexible spending, property casualty, wellness, and workers' comp. There are sheets for those as well. And then the very last section is the enterprise fund, which is regional sewer, the regional sewer one, so. We hope that you find this a little bit more user-friendly than the budget binders that you've gotten in the past.
Yes, this is.
Yes, this is good. This is great.
I like the format, and it's only as good as the information is accurate, and there's a lot of information here, so I trust it's accurate. Guaranteed.
Yes.
Yes, it came right out of OpenGov, so.
So I think that, it's really, kind of the, the overview that we wanted to go through. If there's any questions or anything that you guys had or want additional information, like I said, just kind of a, we kind of go back and now that we've gone through it a little bit, you can see that, our 2021 budget as it's built up with all these funds, you can see where it lands compared to past budgets. It's interesting, it's the same as 2019 budget. But as we talk through, there's some big things that, can move, with the capital spending are in there, so.
And the cost, the expenditures are all, these are the numbers you were given? Yes. So nothing's been renegotiated or relooked at this point?
So we've asked a few offices to look at their numbers, and a few of them have come back and adjusted it.
Does that reflect that or not?
Yes, this reflects the changes.
So this is the most current numbers.
Yes.
You've still got
I
ideas
would say,
on changes, but.
Civil, the court,
Yeah,
common pleas made some reductions.
juvenile court, the sheriff made some.
The sheriff made some, building safety,
Yes.
so there's been, a handful that we have looked at and had them go back in and take, the ones that are significant, once again, we weren't, on veteran services and treasurer, I think the sheriff one still needs to be, looked at. We've got budget hearings on those. Those were ones that we didn't feel like we could get to a good landing spot for you guys just by going back and forth without a budget hearing, so.
Notice you've got DD in there. They obviously budget on their own and so on, although under our umbrella. What others do that as well? Just refresh my memory.
Most of them are through the agency funds, so they really don't show up in this, so.
You know, the discussion about a social services building up there, theoretically, that is neutral to the county. Is that the way it's being reflected, or that probably wouldn't happen next year anyway, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's not, there is, John might have put a little bit of money in here to continue doing some of the planning.
So
John
with the DD levy and the mental health levy and government funding on JFS, those things theoretically should be county neutral, correct?
Well, this is a good overview. I mean, it really,
Boy,
very
thank you.
helpful.
It's
We'll-
great.
We'll get the revenue, I think the revenue forecast, that's something that we definitely need to.
Yeah.
kind of establish.
yeah. And again, reconciling a very unusual 2020 to
Yes.
to
Oh, gosh.
2021 because of the one-timers, the COVID impact, all those things. Again, it's like you said in the very beginning, it's a 6.9% decrease, but that's got a big asterisk on it because it had a whole bunch of big dollars this year.
Well, and when you start looking at the sheriffs and EMS, they had a bunch of salary that got essentially credited by the CARES funding.
Right.
So when you look at their spent to date, you'd be like, you're gonna see it and be like, okay, they're at 50% spent, how are we, they should be at 80, why are they asking for an increase? I do feel like, the sheriff's department, they have, Dean has supplied us a lot of information. We've got spreadsheets with all their staffing and their vacancies that are planned. They don't have any new ones. They're not planning on adding any new positions for this year, but they have filling all of their vacancies from like 2019, not any of the 2020 or 2021.
But to me, those are,
That's,
I don't need to say it, do I?
yeah.
I mean, I think Commissioner Benz would say the same thing.
You're chasing,
To me, those don't exist anymore.
you're chasing your tail, you're always gonna have vacancies.
I mean, it's nowhere other than this government would that be an issue. One clarification, the body cameras came up, and I made a phone call, so I'm on the course of board. I made a phone call to Frank Hatfield and to confirm what was the refunding, and he led me to believe that the cameras were roughly $300 and the refund was $300. I just heard Sheriff Martin say $800 or $900, so I don't know whether Mr. Hatfield didn't know the correct number or we're talking about a Cadillac camera. But there's a big disparity between 300, basically 80% reimbursables from how Hatfield described it, I think 300 per camera, to what I heard in there, which is about 3 times that cost. So based on the theory that it was basically 100% reimbursable, I thought, well, go ahead and do it this year. But after hearing what I heard Sheriff say, and I don't know what the number is, so, and I'm guessing no one here knows for sure.
That's what, so when we had that dialogue, I mean, Karen and I have, really busy getting this stuff together. We didn't move forward with that because we noticed that the reimbursement was 300 and they budgeted, 700 and something?
That was just for the cameras. There's also all the software and all the charging stations and all that, so it's closer to like, I think, what was it, 60 to 80,000 for the entire, to get it implemented. So, yeah, but the cameras were like
Well,
$700 and some dollars a piece, I believe.
But to answer your question, whether $300 for a body cam is a good reimbursement number, or we're asking for the best, I don't.
Well, you wouldn't think it's going to be three times for all the accessories. So something either got lost in the translation with my conversation with Mr. Hatfield, or again, there's different levels of cameras, and we're getting, the Cadillac. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying there's something. So anyway, need to do a little investigating on that, because I don't have the answer.
You gave us some papers when we met with you last week.
Those
So we
were
should
just get rid of those.
Okay, get rid of those. Got it.
The binder is,
The binder is the word.
and we're gonna do, we're gonna get you guys some tabs for those different special funds and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
Right, Marissa? Marissa's finding out that I'm pretty picky about my report binders.
What? You can't do that.
And one caution, I won't say it politically correct, but I probably not. With the new administration and all their creativity, the first closing down the economy worked so well, they're talking about closing down a second time. If that happens, all these bets are off on our budgets to some degree. So we got to be very careful. We can't predict what could happen. And that's just an observation. I wish I was more optimistic about the leadership. And I'm saying it for the record. I don't care.
No, Commissioner Merrill, you're right. I mean, yesterday, Karen and I were really focused on today and feel really good about this. And no, you listened to the governor's press conference and you.
I'm not talking about the governor, I'm talking about the federal level,
But, the talk of a shutdown, reevaluating restaurants and stuff, and yeah, it does, when our revenue streams with sales tax have at least gone back to last year's numbers, could be impacted again, so yeah.
Jen, you gave us a couple of different date sheets here, the first,
Same match,
okay. The last one,
yes.
okay,
The one that does not have any red on it, that
Okay.
has public defender in it, that was the last one.
Okay. got it,
the one you just handed us is most current.
okay.
And that matches the other one. So the journal I gave you before you went in here matches this one.
Okay.
What was that?
The journal paper I gave you before we came in here matches this chart.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
And all of those times should be saved on your calendar.
And I looked at my calendar and they were exactly the same. So,
Great,
as I would expect from you.
great.
Okay, other thoughts, comments? We got a lot of work in between now and I guess the last week in November, first week of December is when we do the bulk of the hearings.
So do I call over to Marysville to get my lunch or what?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. Any other comments?
Oh, thank you, thank
Yep.
you.
Now, do we recess?
Recess until November 30th at 1:30.
Okay, we are now in recess for the budget hearing until November 30th at